Hi, and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Phil, aka Phil, and since I assume you watched a couple of videos about the Thypoch mirror 28 1.4 lens already, I thought I might do something different. And it's officially nighttime here in Essling, so I thought, why not utilize the 1.4 aperture of this 28 Thypoch lens. My friend Jack from Bokeh Therapy inspired me for this idea, since he usually shoots at nighttime.
I spent 5 years shooting only nothing but night photography, so I needed faster glass because the ISO performance of my older Fuji cameras was not very good, so I really needed fast glass.
To make this session more interesting, I will shoot only on film with the Leica MP with Kentmere Pan 400, which I will push probably to 1600, and because of that film setup, I think I will desperately need the 1.4 aperture. Since I haven't shot at night and don't have any experience in that field, let's see what kind of images I can pull off during this session. And since it's nighttime and I'm recording this on the Osmo Pocket, sorry for the bad image quality, but I'm also curious how good the low light performance on the Pocket 3 will be. So let's see. Hold that thought, because I reviewed your images and unfortunately I'm underexposed my roll completely. I only have 2 or 3 frames which are in my opinion okay. First time night photography on film and not using a tripod because I'm not a tripod fan, and not metering correctly resulted into underexposed photos, but you can have a look for yourself. Like most of the shots on this roll is completely underexposed, and somehow I have this kind of light leak in this image, which I assume is because of my self-development, that I loaded the film not correctly, so basically my fault. But still, I think this Dönerbude still looks somehow cool with the light. Another great example of completely missing the exposure because this is completely underexposed. You can't see anything in this image, but still I thought I will also show you my not so great images on this roll. I think this is one of my favorites on this roll. Exception, somehow I was able to get this exposure right, I guess. Yeah, you can still see the details, and here I think the Thypoch lens plays its great performance out. You can still see great details here on the bridge, the lines, etc. And yeah, overall I'm quite pleased with this image, shot at 1.4 handheld at night. And the next one you can see somehow I missed the exposure metering again, and that's how it looks when it's underexposed. This is also a favorite image on this roll for me because it's not underexposed. You can quite see the lines clearly. Great details in my opinion, still on film, pushed at 1600 as I mentioned, and the lens just performs great. Another two examples of underexposed images. But although these images are underexposed, you can still somehow see the details, specifically the writing on the neon signs, for example. And this one is also one of my favorites. As you guessed it, it's because it's not completely underexposed. I think that's also thanks to the scene where the metering was okay, I guess, And again, you can see on the streets, on the lights, on the windows, how much detail this lens can capture on this film, and the 1.4 aperture is necessary during the nighttime. This shot is also kind of underexposed, but one of the few which I like, because you can quite see the details on the streets, the leading line towards the middle of the frame. I like this underexposed one. And the following one are a mix of okay exposed images and underexposed, as I mentioned. Nothing special, but a great lesson for me regarding night photography, specifically on film. And as already mentioned, the Thypoch lens just performs greatly on film in my opinion, even at night, thanks to the aperture of 1.4. The aperture of 1.4 didn't save me to expose the image correctly, so I had to drop my shutter speed. So let's see if I have any useful photos from this session. I will see that when I develop myself. As you can hear already, I'm quite thrilled about this Thypoch 28mm lens, and I think most of you already saw a lot of videos about this lens, and based on these videos I made basically the purchase for this lens. I bought this with my own money. I paid about 650 euros for this, and specifically for the price, this lens is just incredible. Yeah, I just wanted to create a different type of video. That's why I wanted to put this lens to the test regarding night photography on film. And as I already mentioned, I did a lot of mistakes during this shoot, completely underexposing, as you saw on these images, but I think still you can get an idea about the performance of this lens on film, shooting wide open at night. During the daytime, of course, you can utilize the aperture for creamy bokeh. The rest of the roll I tried to get that on film also. The roll I pushed to 1600, and I needed to shoot with an ND to get the 1.4 aperture, and somehow I was also able to underexpose the images also on this one, but still I will show you the images during this section where you can see the bokeh on film, so to say. This lens performs incredible for the price, very sharp in the middle. Sure, at 1.4 you have a little bit vignetting, but I personally like that. And I think when you are shooting on the Leica M system, this lens is quite intriguing, because the Leica version of the 28 Summilux is very expensive. Most people don't get their hands on that kind of lens regarding 28mm and 1.4 aperture. And I think in general there's not as much choices if you want similar performance. I think the only one which you can compare with is the Vogtländer 28 1.5 Nocturne, but that lens is still more expensive than this one, and that's also the reason I pulled the trigger on this one. Was because of the price. The price gives you the opportunity to get a taste of a 1.4 lens of 28mm, and that job Thypoch did incredibly well. This lens performs great on digital, as you saw on other videos, but even on film I just like this lens. And to get a 1.4 aperture for this price for a Leica system, you don't have alternatives for that. Specifically, the build quality is just something amazing. Just listen to the aperture clicks here. I find it quite satisfying. And if you want to use this lens for video, you can declick it, and then you don't hear anything. What was quite discussed controversially was the focus knob, and to be honest, I'm also not a fan about this one, because compared to my other Leica lenses, I don't like the knob to rest my hand on to focus. And Jack mentioned that Thypoch might change that.
I was reading through Thypoch's Instagram comments, and they were saying, oh, they're going to make a new M mount 28 and new M mount 35 that doesn't have the focus knob and the infinity lock, because I think people in general just don't like it as much.
Yeah, I would love to have the focus tab on this lens to have the same experience compared to my other Leica lenses. In the past I had the Q1, Q2 monochrome and the Q3. With the Zumilux 28mm of the Q system was that first the focal length was more 25-26mm, so it was wider than 28. And I had the problem that the distortion was quite extreme in my opinion.
There's a lot of distortion with the Q, and you just put people slightly towards the edge of the frame and it looks bad. It doesn't look realistic if your lines aren't straight in frame. You'll get a bit of that perspective distortion with any slightly wider lens. Shoot leading lines with this Thypoch, and I'm thinking with the Nikon 28 as well, and it just looks nice. Yep. It looks natural. It doesn't look warped. I'm a little less concerned with making sure my wife, my daughter are right in the middle of the frame. Their heads won't look like a bit stretched, or their legs or arms will look a bit weird.
And this issue I don't have with this lens because this 28 is, in my opinion, a true 28, and distortions doesn't come in. The one factor I really love about this Thypoch is the 1.4 aperture, because having a 28mm focal length but an aperture that wide, that gives you the opportunity to get a lot of bokeh into your images. And this is something I really enjoy, shooting my kids with that, because you can, if you get your focus nailed somehow, it's quite difficult at 1.4. The bokeh is just beautiful. You still have the context of the background, but the fall off is somehow I like very much on this lens. I want to use the open aperture also more on film, color film. So I guess that might be a future video regarding a photo walk. So stay tuned on that. I think Jack can summarize my feelings better than I do.
Emotion is so important for the work I do, because I'm a young dad. I think you're a young dad too. And so much of our photos aren't for ourselves. It's like documenting the family. If you're documenting the family with your iPhone, that's very convenient, but it doesn't have that timeless feel to it. Whereas if you're using an old school camera, I feel like a better dad. Does that make any sense? I feel like I'm a better parent if I'm using an old school camera. There's a real satisfaction when you nail focus at f1.4 with a manual lens in particular. I feel very smug, like, oh, I'm amazing. And if you do it through the rangefinder, that's even more fun because it's even harder.
I think I'm repeating myself, but in my opinion, this lens is the perfect 28mm 1.4 lens for film photography if you are on the Leica M mount system. Simply because for this price point you are not able to get any alternatives, in my opinion. In case you want to shoot 28mm at 1.4 on Leica M system on film, for example, you can quite get a relatively inexpensive setup. As I already mentioned, this Thypoch lens I got for 650 euros. I think in US it sells around also $600. And then paired with an Leica M2, which depending on conditions costs you around $1,000 to $1,500. I know the Leica M2 doesn't have the 28mm frame lines, but most people I saw online are utilizing the viewfinder, the whole viewfinder square as the frame line, so to say. So looks like that works quite good. If you want to buy an external light meter to put on your camera, you could buy this, for example, something like this. And this is the Cakes light meter, which you can just put onto the cold shoe or hot shoe. And then you have a setup like this. I know this is the Leica M3, but for demonstrations, this works, I guess. Depending on what kind of deal you can strike with the Leica M2, you can get this kind of setup with a brand new lens, 28mm 1.4, under $2,000, and start your Leica film journey with the 28mm 1.4 lens. And I can't wait to shoot this lens more on film, specifically on color film. I have Kodak Gold lying around, so this is something I also want to test out. Looking forward to that. Also, just see, this is a completely metal cap, and you can listen to it. This is completely metal. The lens hood is also metal, but I don't have it here right now. Just beautiful. And that price again. Okay, alright. I hope this video was somehow helpful or entertaining for you. I tried to do something different, but messed up the exposure during nighttime and daytime shooting with an ND filter. But I hope you were able to get my message along, how much I love this lens and the performance on this on film. If you're a Nikon shooter and Sony shooter, Thypoch also have this lens on Nikon Z mount and Sony E mount. Check out Jack's video about the Nikon version of this lens. I will link it up here and also down in the description. Thanks, Jack, for the great chat we had and this collaboration. And where can my audience find you, Jack?
I'm Jack. You can find me on Bokeh Therapy, all one word, Bokeh Therapy on Instagram and on YouTube. And I hope we can keep this going.